everyone. We're back here live at Qualys' ROCon conference. If you've been watching our stream all day or this morning, I've explained what ROCon stands for, right? Risk Operations Conference. But I wanted to go to the very top to get you an explanation of why ROCon, right? For many of you who've been following TechStrong and the security industry over the years, the Qualys Security Conference, QSC, was kind of a staple. A lot of us have gone to it, and whether you went to the one in Europe or North America or the one near at RSA or whatever, Qualys Security Conference. Now we're doing Qualys ROCon. Let me introduce you to my friend Sumedh Thakar. Sumedh is the CEO, of course, of Qualys, but he's the guy who made it Qualys ROCon. Sumedh, welcome. It's great to have you here, man.
Well, thank you very much. I always enjoy doing this with you.
Always a pleasure, man. So, look, I gave him this much.
Yeah.
Give me the whole story on ROCon.
If you remember last QSC, we talked about the concept of a risk operations center and the notion of like evolving a ROC out of the SOC.
Yep.
So we can really focus on proactively managing risk. And, it was a new idea. Like we did patch management a few years ago. Didn't know how it was going to go. The feedback was phenomenal. People loved the idea of the ROC. And we started to kind of see this like appetite for people wanting to have a conference that was really focused on cyber risk management overall, rather than a tool specific or a technology specific or a vendor specific thing. And so I felt we can expand this audience. We can, it takes a village for risk management. It's not just the guy who's scanning. It's really bringing the CIO team, bringing the CFO as part of the business conversation. How do you report to the board? So the idea of the Risk Operations Conference was, look, at the end of the day, as I talked about in my keynote, dashboard tourism is not getting us anywhere. We need to get things operationalized and fixed. And so having a conference where people would come, talk about risk management and how to operationalize it end to end, agnostic of the tool, was really well received by folks. And that's why we came up with the ROC, the ROC conference, because this will continue to grow and give people a forum to come and discuss proactive risk management rather than just always be in reactive detection and response. And that's why super excited about ROCon.
I am too. And I'll tell you something. First of all, I think it's brilliant because it lifts what was in essence a user conference
Yes.
to a whole different plane,
Yeah.
which is, it is the Risk Operations Conference. And I think one day we'll look back, Sumedh, and say, oh yeah, they did the first one in Houston.
Yeah.
It was a smaller one.
Yes.
This will take on its whole, there was a time where the RSA Security Conference was just about the RSA
Yes, exactly, yeah.
encryption,
Yeah.
right? Now, of course, it's
Yeah.
different. As someone who's been in security 30 years, it's always been about the risk
Yes.
and managing risk.
Yes.
We just don't seem to remember that all the
Right.
time, but it's always been about it. And so again, I think it's a great thing for there. You mentioned a couple of other things though, and I want to jump into those. Number one, it was a great keynote this morning.
Thank you.
I think, and again, this is something that was so important to me as a person, as a security person, was the concept that we got to get out of being the bad news generator,
Yeah.
especially in vulnerability management, the bad news generator. We got to get out of saying, oh, I've got 100,000 vulnerabilities with, 10,000 CVEs and, oh, I got my work cut out for me, right? One of the biggest things, I was talking to our keynote from this morning.
Yeah.
And I
Hit one.
Yeah. And we spoke about, that was, he was a CISO when CISOs first started becoming, but that was the CISO's job, to convert security talk to business talk.
Yeah.
And businesses talk risk,
Yeah.
right? And so, again, I think it's such a great thing for us as an industry to say, hey, we can't keep doing this Chicken Little thing. The sky's falling, the sky's falling. We need to talk to the board, to the exec team, to the business in business terms. You use the term digital tourism.
Dashboard tourism.
Dashboard tourism, excuse me. Dashboard tourism.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I almost spit my coffee out. Talk to me. Explain to our audience, what do you mean?
I think we've sort of come from this thing of cybersecurity is about visibility, and I think we invested so much in visibility, we sort of almost over-rotated on visibility. And so today, when you ask anybody, oh, my security posture view, and then you have one for SaaS, and one for cloud, and one for on-prem, and one for user identity, but it's all just dashboards that show you the bad news. And so if you ask somebody what's the posture view, they have one dashboard from code scanning, one from cloud. It doesn't make sense from a business perspective, right? Because if you take a mobile banking application for a bank, it's using capabilities across each of those tools, but they don't come together and tell you, oh, what's my risk to my mobile banking? Yeah, you can get your code top 10, you can get your cloud top 10, you can get your identity top 10. What does that mean to the business? And so I felt like we spent so much effort in building dashboards, and then things don't end up actually getting fixed.
No.
Because we don't know what to do after that. People don't listen, IT teams don't. So this idea that we gotta move at the speed of AI and be able to actually make an impact means we have to get away from building dashboards and taking selfies with these dashboards into, I don't really need a dashboard, I just need to get stuff fixed. I need a dashboard of what was fixed rather than a dashboard of what's broken. So that's where, that's resonated really well with our customers. They love this idea that we don't want more dashboards. We just want to fix things.
I got to tell you from my heart, it's not just a security issue.
Yeah, right.
True. Not mentioning names, but Salesforce could use this lesson.
Yeah.
How many dashboards? And that's like, because I think we've gone to this notion that we need a custom view for every single person in the organization. Oh, you're a CIO, you get this view. You're a CISO, you got that view. This guy gets this view, this team gets that view.
Right.
You can't collect enough stickers for all these dashboards, and there is usually only one truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just how many ways do you want to color it? So again, major kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
And as I told you before, I'm going to be using that over and over and over again. So we'll get to use it. Here's another thing. I was talking to a friend of mine who's just starting a company. They just got their seed funding around risk.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, you're going to do security?" He said, "No, we're doing risk."
Yeah.
For those of us out here who are saying, "Wait a second, risk is security, security is risk."
Yeah.
Yes and no. How do you delineate between the two?
I mean, look, if you look at a company has many different risks. There's financial risk, there's risk to sales, there's risk to product development. And cybersecurity is one risk factor for a company. Because cybersecurity is about managing the risk to your digital infrastructure. If something happens to your digital infrastructure that will impact the business, that's the risk you need to manage, right? And so, cybersecurity has always been risk management. They are not really separated. It's just that the way we have been looking at it is initially we came from best practices, right? If I lock all my doors and windows, I'm safe. So let's focus on doing everything to lock my doors and windows. But then you start to get to the point where you're like, I spent $500,000 making sure all my doors and windows are locked. But what was my possible loss was only $50,000 in the drawer. So now you're suddenly saying, wait, like my attack surface is big, but what am I going to lose is not that big. So should I be spending so much money on that? So at the end of the day, like any risk management, like your car, you have a car insurance, a fraction of your overall car's value should be your car insurance.
Yes.
It's the same with cybersecurity, right? There's a fraction of your IT spend should be spent in protecting. And what is that fraction? And that has to be tied to how much risk you have of losing money. And that conversation has not happened for a long time. People just kind of come from best practices. But now I think it is the time where we feel like people just cannot fix everything. And so which means that you are taking an inherent risk. By not fixing it, by not fixing things on time, you're taking an inherent risk. So why not be deliberate about the risk you take? By actually measuring and quantifying and focusing and being proactive, saying, this risk I'm going to fix, this I'm not going to fix. Versus today is just slipping away from you, and so you're taking a risk.
Now, I agree with you again there. I think what happened it's almost, you sometimes, like people start doing things, and I don't want to pull religion into it, but people do things because it was traditional to do in religion, right? And they almost forget the reason they were doing it. So we lock the doors and windows because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Not, you have to keep your doors and windows locked.
Right. Right.
Not that keeping my doors and windows locked means they can't steal these glasses or something, and what's it worth to the glasses? We, as an industry, I think we went out in the woods on that a little bit and totally.
Yeah, and that's the evolution,
connection.
right? I think the reason this was not a big deal in the past was because we were not approaching cyber budgets to the point where people were like, I mean, how much more can we keep spending? Like, what's the limit? The problem with risk management is if you don't define how much risk, you're fighting an infinite risk. You can spend any amount of money and still not feel safe.
Yeah.
So that's where the last couple of years, the number of issues coming up has exploded. The speed at which issues are being exploited, and the budgets are not keeping up. And so then the question comes, well, if we have a limited budget, limited people, what should we focus on? We cannot fix everything. So that's where, well, we should fix on what causes risk. Now, is it just the risk of somebody coming through the door? No, it's the risk of what would happen to the business if somebody came through the door is the real challenge, right? And so I think I feel like it's a maturity journey right now, and we are all sort of coming in with having spent a lot of money on all kinds of tools, and now is the opportunity to say, how do we tie it back to the business so we can have a business conversation? Security should not be the bad news bearer and the cost center. They can actually be an enabler back to the business by reducing the things that we are fixing, giving time back to the IT and dev team so that they can contribute positively to the company's top line.
25 years ago, 23 years ago, I remember asking my team to come up with like a ROI calculator. You'd probably think the same thing. And for the longest time, kind of the dogma in security has been, there is no ROI calculator. It's impossible to measure the ROI of security. But you can measure the ROI of risk.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that is something that's like game changing, where we can say, hey, if you spend X amount of dollars, you're going to reduce your risk by Y.
Yeah.
And here's your exposure.
Right.
That's
exactly what it is, right? It's like basically you're saying that your cybersecurity spend is going to reduce risk, and the ROI on cybersecurity is how much risk did you reduce for the organization. Right, that's it, right? I think in some of the previous attempts at quantifying an ROI have been too tactical, where people start to put a dollar value on a server and a dollar value. And that doesn't scale.
No.
At the end of the day, you have a business. The business is generating certain amount of money. You may have a subsystem of that business that generates half of that, and so now you can break it down in the top 5 top level sort of revenue generating applications or business entities, and then you can align the risk, right? Or what if there is a ransomware attack? How much would I lose? And then if I know how much I would lose, then how much should I spend to reduce the possibility of how much I would lose, right? So that conversation is what we are enabling, and that's why having the risk operations conference here is really about expanding the persona. We had a board panel right now, right, where board members talked about how they look at cybersecurity, CISO talking about risk. We have a panel later for CIOs. We have cyber insurance. We have a lot of conversation around expanding the conversation around cybersecurity as a risk management beyond just, I got these many CVs and I got to fix them.
I got it. I want to pivot a little bit and talk about something else. So as the CEO of Qualys, it has a certain visibility within the marketplace. Do you feel, are you the missionary on this mission? Does the rest of the industry gather around and say, yes, this is what we need to do. We got to get away. It's a dead end if we don't understand, right? There's more vulnerabilities than ever. There's more bad things than ever. AI is accelerating it. You got to get off the hamster wheel at some point.
Look, I think I don't know about mission or not, or missionary or not. I think the way I look at it is like not so much about the industry, but our customers are telling us in different words what the challenge that they are facing. So they don't say I need a rock, but they say I'm facing budget, I'm facing issues, explaining my budget ask to my CFO, and you start drilling down into that, and you start realizing. And so for me, I believe, and like Qualys has always done this. We were the first in SaaS and cloud.
Before there was a cloud.
Right, I was the first one to come up with patch management with VM,
Yep.
where everybody said it's not going to work. So it's the same with the Risk Operations Center. I think the response from our customers have been, especially the CISO level, has been, this is exactly where we need to go. And so we see them rallying, right? You talk to Rich Sierson. I mean, he does these board reporting workshops, and we have like oversubscribed on CISOs wanting to come have the conversation. So I feel like that's the right approach, just because of the feedback we are getting from our customers. And we are always going to be visionary from that perspective. We're always going to be disruptive to try something that nobody has tried before. And it's worked out for us many times in the past. If we stay the course, we believe in what we are doing, and we listen to our customers. And I think the feedback so far from risk operations, and the fact that there are over 400 people here at ROCon, our first ROCon has more people than we had at QSC last year, right?
Yeah.
So that tells me that it was really interesting today, right? I had a customer come, and he has been a Qualys user, and he introduced two other people from his company that came with him. And he said, hey, this is my SecOps guy, and this is my risk operations guy.
Really?
So that is exactly what we
That's what you want.
envision. Is this is a conference that is bringing your risk team and your operations team together to have a common language of what we should do, why we should do something, what's the ROI, and how do we measure ourselves from the investment that we're making.
Love it. Sumedh, every security company I talk to says, I want to talk to the CISO. The CISO's our customer. But here's the fact. There's like 100 or more security professionals for every CISO. Do they have to learn to talk the language of risk, or do they rely on their CISO to be their translator, if you will?
I think if you really look at every person working in cybersecurity is actually doing risk management for the company. They just don't know or think of it like that, because the whole function is about risk management. And so the evolution of this is that the CISO cannot be successful if the team that they have is also not aligned to that same idea and the concept that, hey, we need to triage what we need to do based on the risk to the organization. And we just cannot fix everything, right? And the team is getting burnt out, and we're not having the success, and we just don't get to everything. And so, like I said, there is an inherent risk we're taking. We just don't know what the risk we're taking, because we didn't get to what we're getting to. So I think that's where the conversation is really twofold. We got to get the people who are administering cybersecurity to think higher level in terms of business and value and why we should, because communication is very important. One of the things I talk about is communication. How do we communicate today? We give the IT team 10,000 CVs to fix. They don't like it. They complain. They still do it. They come back. We communicate by saying, thank you very much. Great job. Here's 10,000 more.
Right.
Versus saying like, hey, by the way, by fixing these 200, you actually are the hero who reduced the risk of losing $10 million by 80%. So that is why we do need to make sure that this revolution of Risk Operations Center is actually something that touches the people who are administering cybersecurity programs, engineering cybersecurity programs, as well as CISOs who are then translating that into business speak.
Absolutely. I got two more areas I want to touch on. Number one, as I said before, a friend of mine's opening this company with risk, they're risk management, but not necessarily security.
Yeah.
Do you foresee the ROC becoming, for more than cyber, it's managing risk, not just cyber risk?
Right. I don't know that right now, but I do think that the ROC will become the key piece for cyber risk management that will interface with the rest of the company's overall GRC function.
Right.
Right. So if you're tracking environmental risk, you're tracking political risk, you're tracking military conflict risk, supply chain risk for your business, then the Risk Operations Center will give you the visibility that you need. I think if you asked me 20 years ago if we would be doing patch management and Risk Operations Center, I would have said no. So I don't know where we go from here, but I do think that the risk operations and operationalizing risk is a common thread no matter what risk it is, right? No matter what risk it is, you have to quantify it. You have to figure out how much you're going to spend to reduce that risk that actually makes sense to the business. And there's a certain amount of risk you just have to accept. And having a framework that does that is great. But today we are really focused on digital risk and cyber, and maybe it expands. We don't know the future.
I think GRC is an area ripe for disruption, but what do I know? One last thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned agentic AI up there
Yes.
today. Who's not mentioning agentic AI, right?
Yes.
How real is it? What do you
Yeah.
think about it? When could our Qualys customers see
I
it?
think in a way it's a good that everybody is mentioning about it, which means it's real in many ways, right? Like if you just have one vendor saying, "Oh, this is completely that doesn't scale," and people don't take it seriously. I think that what we are seeing is that attackers are using agentic AI. There's no doubt about that, right? They are taking open source code and they're putting it through AI engines to find exploits that they can write, and AI is creating those exploits. And so that's why in the recent Mandiant report you saw that the average time to exploit is -1, which just means that more exploitations are happening before a patch comes out. And so the only way to respond today is to be able to do leverage the technology like agentic AI to respond at the speed at which they are attacking us. If they are using AI to say create an exploit by looking at this code and run it against these 500 companies, and you are sitting there saying create my Jira ticket, go through 7 approvals for Jira ticket, let me test my patch for like 2 weeks,
Toast.
and then you're toast, right?
Yeah.
And so I think agentic AI, but it is also important to understand that you're not letting agentic AI loose on and doing everything in a completely automated way. That's why today what we talked about is the concept of a human and AI collaboration that is coming together, so that the human security analysts actually are augmented with cyber risk analysts that are AI agents that are helping them do a lot of their tasks, analysis. Maybe we've seen this in financial analysts, where financial analysts use AI to do research on a company. So they don't manually go and do that, but that AI research is coming in, and it's the same way, right? Like if you're an analyst, you need to take care of Patch Tuesday. If you have an assistant that's gonna, come and do that for you,
Basics.
so
No, it's human in the loop.
Yeah.
I understand. I understand. We're out of time. They're giving me all kinds of hand signals here, Sumedh. But I want to mention one thing for our audience out here. And that is, in addition to the 2 days
Yes.
of the conference itself, ROCon is actually 4 days. There's 2 days of training, which are sign up while you can, because they don't charge for them. It's free
we
training.
believe in free training, yes.
And they're standing room only here in
Yes.
Houston. And so I know you're planning on other ROCons, perhaps in Europe. There was one in Brazil or
Yes,
something.
there's one in Mumbai in 1 month.
Mumbai. Look, I don't know how long he'll offer that for free. If it was me as CEO, you'd be paying for them. But if you could go get training for free, get to the next ROCon.
I don't want to say
Check it out.
forever, but till I'm CEO, we're going to offer free training.
You heard it here first. My friend, thank you so
very
much.
It was a pleasure.
Sumedh Thakar, CEO Qualys here at ROCon. We're live. We're in Houston. We'll be back in just a bit.